Return of investment.
You will make 10 times back your money that you invested. I already know that. I will probably the first week. Just even if I don't, I already know in the back end it will.
What I would say to someone who's interested in coming to a workshop like this is they have to be here.
Business workshop is going to have a big impact on me.
Make 10
just
times
the
back
simple
your money
fact
that you
of
invested. I already
the
know
big
that. I will probably the
takeaways,
first
which
week.
is focusing
Just
on
even if
how
I
I'm
don't,
gonna
I already
train
know in the
my
back end it
coaches
will.
What I would say to
think more
someone
in
who's
light of what the client wants.
the information that I'm getting this weekend, or that I've gotten this weekend, is going to go directly into the success of my business. So this definitely will impact my business.
I found a lot of things that I'm going to be able to take back and implement right away and provide a better value to my clients and increase our revenue.
It's important to come to these events and get like a kick in your pants and motivate you to go back and be better and be greater and to have that growth component. So absolutely, I'm going to go back and go hard when I get home.
If you're thinking just jump into it, jump off the cliff, I guarantee you will fly. You will not fall down to the ground. You will fly and continue to fly. So I'm a big believer in attending workshops, but the right workshops, and this is one of the right workshops you need to be attending.
All right, everybody. How are you doing today? It's Tom Jacobs here. Let me just stop the share screen there. Somehow. Stop the share. Somehow. We'll do that. There we go. All right, everybody, you can see me okay. You can hear me okay. Just if you could type that into the chat box. Thanks, Jason, for nodding as well and having your camera on. Hey, Martin, how are you doing? Good to see you guys here as well. Well, again, I'm Tom Jacobs, and welcome to the show. It's going to be kind of like a show. I like to have fun on webinars. I don't know about you, but I'm not a death by PowerPoint type of guy. I like to tell stories. I like to have fun on these webinars and maybe have some applause at some points. Maybe a little. So there we go. Those are all the sounds that I have on my soundboard here. So today you're here because you probably want to double your sales with just 4 questions. And that's what we're going to be going through today, is some simple scripting to help you double your sales in a matter of months. And I've seen this over and over again as well. And it absolutely works. And we'll go through exactly how that is. But imagine waking up at 3 a.m. in a panic because your bank account is empty and you check your phone, 0 new sales, 0 new leads. You start wondering, maybe this business thing isn't for me, or this sales thing isn't for me. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Just type in the chat box. Yeah, that sounds familiar. At some point or other, we've all been there, I'm sure. I know I've been there several times. Yeah. And maybe you've been humbled by money as well. I know I have been, but my goal is by the end of this training, you'll have a tool in your sales toolbox that will fix those money issues so that you don't have to worry about where that next sale is coming from as well. But here's why I had to learn this sales skill. What is it, 20 years ago, 15, 18 years ago, I opened up a fitness center, the first kind of big business that I had. I've been an entrepreneur, since I was 16 years old. But in 2008, I decided to open up a fitness center. And within 6 months, I was broke. So imagine the scene. It's Sunday afternoon in a beautiful March in Houston, Texas. And it was, a nice day. It was hot, but not, typical hot Houston, Texas weather. And I was in my office, which was in the back of my small fitness center. And it's basically where the transformers were. It was like the electrical closet. I called it my office, but people called it the closet. But that was my office. I had, and I was sitting there on the Sunday afternoon. I was staring at my computer screens, and all of a sudden, tears started streaming down my face. And I was looking at my bank account, and I had rent and payroll due on that Friday at the end of the week, but I was going to be $10,000 short. And I don't know about you, but landlords and employees tend to like to get paid on time. and or they'll quit or lock you out. But I was drowning, and the bank wouldn't lend me a dime. My business was bleeding cash, and I had one choice, and that was to swallow my pride and call my dad. And it was the most humbling call I've ever made as a 38-year-old man. My dad tried to troubleshoot with me, which was great. However, he's never owned his own business before and didn't quite understand what I was going through. But he did understand that I needed help. So he agreed to loan me the money. I put emphasis on the word loan because that is what it was, because it came with a hefty 12% interest rate. And I was like, Dad, what? That's more than a bank is going to charge me. Why are you charging me interest? To which he replied, I'll give you 6 months interest free, and you'll also need to put up your house for collateral. I was like, he said he wanted to teach me a lesson. And I was like, really, Dad? I'm 38 years old. I need $10,000, not another life lesson. But with the loan, I was able to pay the landlord and the employees. And with the little left over, I invested in coaching. And the first thing that the coach told me when I hired her was I needed to get better at sales. And because that's what was holding me back. And to be quite honest, I was terrible at selling. People would walk in and ask about personal training, and I'd be like, yeah, I guess you could. If you wanted $60 a session, if you buy 10 sessions, you get the 11th for free. And then they'd leave and want to think about it, right? But it was really bad. And when my coach said that I needed to master sales, I was like, nah, I just need more leads. I just need to do more marketing. I need a better website. I don't want to be salesy. That my product should speak for itself. Maybe that sounds familiar to you guys as well, that we're thinking that our product should just sell and we shouldn't have to do anything with it. The truth is, more sales solves all business problems. Let's repeat that together. All business problems are solved by more sales. And imagine what you could do by just doubling your sales in the next 6 months. What would you do? Spend more time with your family? Maybe get a new car? Take a much needed vacation? What if you could 4x your sales? Now, today, I'm going to show you how you can never worry about money again when you master this one skill in business, and that skill is sales. And it can be scary for some people, I know. Raise your hand if you're a little bit scared with selling or it feels uncomfortable. It did for me for a long time. But I'll give you a little backstory. I know I look like Stanley Tucci. I've been told this many times. 10 years ago, I looked like Vin Diesel. I don't know what happened in the 10 years, but I'm basically a true entrepreneur, which really just means that I'm allergic to working for somebody else. And quite frankly, I don't think anybody would hire me right now. I just can't work for somebody else. My first business was a mobile DJ and a quartet business in high school when I was 16 years old. And in 2013, I learned how to fly a single engine airplane, which I love to do. Don't do quite as much flying nowadays. I live in Asia, but anytime I'm back in the States, I always try to get a plane and go flying. I also have a degree in theater, which will, by the end of this hour, you'll learn that you'll be like, yeah, that makes sense. So, and I got that degree from DePaul University. And currently I own an appointment setting service, and I wrote the book Selling with Heart, and I coach health and wellness practitioners and others how to build a great business with a focus on ethical selling. And that is my true calling, I believe, is to help people with ethical selling. Now, that's my typical highlight reel, but I have a pretty epic blooper reel as well. I've had several failed businesses. I tried to do an online off-loop theater ticket company. So selling tickets for off-loop theaters in Chicago. That failed. And I think Ticketmaster took my idea, by the way. I had a blind and shutters business for a while. I opened and closed my second fitness facility within 6 months. Lots of failures, but I wouldn't have it any other way, because with those failures, I've learned so much, and they taught me. They were, during the time it wasn't really comfortable, but I did learn a lot. Now back to the story about my dad. So I didn't want to leave you hanging there too much, but after being loan sharked by my father, my business did improve because I got that coaching, and I really dove deep into sales, sales psychology as well, and I got really good at selling. And not just a little bit, but I went from a measly $100,000 that first year in business to over $400,000 the second year. And it kept growing. And I owned that business for 10 years and sold that back in 2018. And it still goes today. It's still going on today in Houston. I was able to do that because I mastered conversational selling and these 4 questions that I'm going to be giving you today. Now, as for the loan that my gangster dad gave me, I paid him back within 6 months because I didn't want to have to pay that 12% interest rate. And, my dad wanted to teach me a lesson. Well, that lesson that I learned was this: sales skills saved my business. And I learned that even an empathetic, introverted person who doesn't like to ask for money, like myself, can learn the skill of sales. So thanks, Dad. That was a very, very valuable lesson. So over the years, I've been able to sell over $21 million of health and wellness programs for myself and for others. And in learning the power of sales and how it can turn around any business, especially mine, it was understanding that psychology behind sales and human behavior. And I've had the honor and privilege of presenting all over the world. I teach sales to health and wellness practitioners. And I just have a lot of fun doing that and coaching them and coaching programs with them. So sales is what makes the business go. So without a sale, there is no business. Repeat that again with me. Without sales, there is no business. We need that exchange of money. And that was the biggest mindset shift that I had to make. Does anybody else feel like you need to make a mindset shift around selling? Type that in the chat. Yes, if that is you as well. All right. Cool. Thanks, Jason. Yeah, JR, absolutely. So let's talk about it. This is the mindset. Imagine it's 6 months from now. You've doubled your sales. What's the first thing that you'd spend that extra cash on? Drop that in the chat too. Selling with heart is the best path to doubling your sales without sacrificing your soul. Now, I have so much respect for anybody that's in the health and wellness field because it takes so much to be able to give so much to somebody that can alter their life forever. And especially with our own healthcare system these days, we're fighting against insurance companies, we're fighting against big pharma, and more we're fighting against an apathetic population. So it's so important that especially health and wellness practitioners master the skill of selling, especially those empathetic and introverted folks like myself, because it does get better when you can sell. And the mindset shift is from selling to get somebody to buy something from you to solving their problem. Selling is absolutely serving, right? Your prospect has a problem. You have a solution. It's really that simple, right? I used to just kind of free flow my sales calls, no structure, which also meant no sales. I wanted to learn all those slick closing tactics. So I bought books from people like Grant Cardone or Jordan Belfort, The Wolf of Wall Street. But when I tried these tactics, they seemed really heavy-handed and not really in alignment with how I wanted to convert prospects into clients. After all, after the sale, I was going to have to work with those folks for a long time, for 6 months, 12 months at a time. And I didn't want them to have like this image of me, like beating them over the head until they buy or die during the sales process. So there was a huge conflict between what I was learning and how I wanted to appear in that sales So with all that new knowledge, I finally found a new way of selling with just 4 questions. And that's the framework that I've been working on for the last 20 years. And I've been teaching now as well. And that's kind of the preface of my book as well. And these 4 questions are the cornerstone to any call flow that you might have. And it doesn't matter what you're selling. It could be you're selling an appointment or you're selling a program. It is, these 4 questions work in any type of sales situation. And I've crafted a call outline that flows naturally. It feels authentic and it keeps that prospect engaged while also showing value of your program. And it took me back to selling to serving, and that is really the mindset now when I go into a sales prospect or when I go into a sales call is how can I serve this prospect to the highest level? How can I find out what their problem is? So then I can figure out, can I even help them? And if I can help them, then I'm going to present my solution in a way that fixes their problem so that it makes it easy for them to say yes. And not just yes, but an enthusiastic yes with a credit card, right? All right. So this is the typical pain of bad sales calls. And let's talk about something that we've all experienced, right? If you've done any sales calls, you've had that dreaded, awkward, soul-crushing sales call that went absolutely nowhere. Maybe it was the ghosting special. You felt great about the call. You send the follow-up email, and then, there it is. Crickets. I had the wrong button. Crickets. The prospect disappears. They ghost you like they've entered the witness protection program or something like that. Or my personal, I hate this one. Let me think about it. That's a black hole, right? And you thought it was going well again, and they hit you with, oh, that sounds really great, but I need to think about it. And poof, never to be seen again. Or maybe you're the verbal vomit disaster, right? You did 95% of the talking. You gave them every single feature, benefit, case study, pricing option, and your childhood backstory. But by the end, they were more confused than interested. And they went away to think about it. I see that all the time as well. Or maybe it's the price shocker. You show them the price and their face does that. Oh, wow, that's a lot more than I thought. And then awkward silence. And you immediately go into discount mode, right? You're saying things like, I can break that up into payments. Or how about if I take that 20% off? Sound familiar? Type that in the chat if you've gone through any one of these 4 things. And I bet every single one of you have done that. Now, yep. Absolutely all of them. The good news is it doesn't have to be like that. And we can get rid of all of these with the right scripting, with the right sales call. And here's the truth. It's not that your prospects didn't need what you offer. It's that your sales call didn't make them feel like saying yes was a no-brainer. And that's why having a clear, emotionally engaging, structured script with heart is everything. Because if you don't lead with the conversation, guess what? The prospect will leave right out the door. So it's everything about that conversation that makes it important to follow that scripting. All right, so we had some laughs about those bad sales calls, but let's get serious. Why does it keep happening? It's because most people are using an outdated, broken model that sets them up for failure. It's the old way, and why most people are struggling with sales. And here's what most people do when they try to sell, right? So this is the old way. They're talking too much, right? Info overload. If your prospect says, I need to think about it, they're overwhelmed. You gave them too much. You talked too much, right? You didn't give them an opportunity to really internalize and talk about their problems. And maybe you just think you can just kind of jump on a sales call and think, oh, I'll just have a nice conversation, and they'll buy if they want to. But what happens instead? That prospect leaves saying, I need to think about it. Right? There's no structure and people just wing it. There's no way to make a sale. Or maybe giving the price too early, that sticker shock, right? You haven't built the value up enough for them to actually see that they want to buy it. Or leading with features. There's no emotion. You're caught up in that list of features that you have. My program includes 10 modules, a workbook, weekly calls, but people don't buy features. They buy transformation. They want to know, will this program solve my problem? That's the old way. How about the new way? Bet you're excited to see this. Anticipation, right? Asking questions. If you're, asking clear, simple questions instead of winging it, you'll have a framework that makes every call flow effortlessly. And you'll always know what to say, when to say it, and even how to sell it, and say it, right? Asking, not telling, right? The prospect will sell themselves. With the what, why framework, and those are the 4 questions, by the way, we won't have to convince anyone. They'll talk themselves into the sale, and you'll be there to guide them to that decision. Or how about this? Solve their problem. When you're able to solve their problem, it feels good for them. They're like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. But a lot of times we let that prospect connect the dots between their problem and the solution. And a lot of times they can't make that connection. You need to do it for them. Sales is about leading that person to where you want to take them and how you can solve their problem. Connect those dots for them. Higher close rate, more clients. This means less burnout. When you use these 4 questions, you go from closing maybe 1 out of 5 calls, like most people, to 4 out of 5 calls. And that's what exactly happened with one of my clients, Dr. Nick, who went from a 22% close rate to 77% close rate within the first 30 days that we worked together. So this is the absolute new way to 4x your close rate. More clients, less work, more money. You can help more people. And that's really the process. Really what everybody wants is to help more people and be compensated for it and make a good living. So let's talk about your killer sales presentation. I work with clients on 3 things: their presentation, their performance, and their profits. I call it the 3 Ps. The presentation is all about putting together the words on the page so that there's a clear flow to the conversation and the questions that you ask are relevant to your business. And it guides your prospect to say yes. And then ultimately they want to purchase your program. Everybody loves to buy. Nobody likes to be sold to. Remember that. Everybody loves to buy. Nobody likes to be sold to. And today's training, we're going to be going all about that script structure and the what, why. The performance is how you say the words. It's your tonality. And your tonality really does matter. Especially if you're doing phone sales, because that's all you have to go by is your voice. And it's also really important alongside body language when you're doing in-person sales or maybe on Zoom as well. And the last little bit is what I call profits. And that is how to handle objections, making it easy for the prospect to buy, as well as some sales automation and tracking tools to streamline that entire sales process. Because no salesperson has ever said in the history of sales, I love to do my admin work. Let me do that tracking. So we want to make that as easy as possible. But today we're going to learn that call structure. And at the end of this training, you'll get the opportunity to go deeper with creating your own scripting. And I'd be honored to help you with doing that. So HEART is that structure of how to double your sales in the next 6 months. And HEART is an acronym, and it represents the new way of selling so that you can double your sales in that 6 months. And this is what I teach in my Selling with HEART intensive one-on-one program and my Selling with HEART Academy group program. It stands for Hugs, Engage, Ask, Referral, testimonial. Hugs, engage, ask, referral, testimonial. Today, we're focusing on the engage and the ask, because that section is a process that most people kind of screw up. And that's specifically the questions to ask to get your prospect to tell you why they need your program. Now, if you scan that QR code there, it will give you it will take you to a Google Doc where it basically has the template of the what, why in the sales script template. So go ahead and scan that right now. If you like to do that, I will, we'll have it on the coming up later as well. So if you don't get that right now, or take a screenshot, go over there. And if you need that again, we can come back to it later. So it is the questions that you ask which will help you and help your prospect, help them help you explain what their problem is and why it's important for them to fix it. Because you need to get to the root cause of the prospect's problem. There's no trickery, there's no sleazy sales tactics. It's pure value-based conversation. And doesn't that feel a lot better where you're having a structured conversation with somebody rather than having to remember all these robotic tactics? Well, when they say this, I say this, and it doesn't work that way in a real conversation. So let's go through that what, why. So the what is the first question that you ask. So what are your goals? Basically, you want to get them talking about where they want to be, that pleasure piece that they want to be at. It obviously gets into where they are now and why they're in pain. So we cover both the pain and the pleasure at this point. And generally, the next little sub question is, where are you now? So now we're creating this gap, and I call it building tension between where they are and where they want to be. If you don't do that, there's no movement, there's no inspiration for them to actually want to change. So it's really important that you're always be thinking about, how can I create this tension to get them to move forward and make a change that's going to positively impact their life. And as humans, we're more likely to get out of pain and do whatever it is possible to get out of pain than to get to pleasure. And I'll share a quick little story with you. I was flying a cheap airline. It starts with S and ends with Scoot. Okay, it was Scoot. Okay, I didn't want to say it, but Scoot Airline, it's a cheap airline. It's kind of like Spirit. It's over here in Asia. And I ordered, it was in the afternoon, I ordered a beer. And the flight attendant came over, handed me the beer, and the little credit card machine asked for my credit card and swiped the credit card. And said, oh, nothing happened. Oh, that's weird. Can I have your credit card again? Swiped it again. That's weird. It's not working. Goes up, finds the purser. Purser comes back and says, oh, I'm not quite sure what's going on. Swipe it again. Oh, okay. Oh, well, I think this, instead of just giving me a free beer at that point, they were like wasted all this time to swipe it 3 times. But anyway, I get back home, get my credit card statement, and there's 3 charges from Scoot. And I'm like, dude, like what happened? And granted, it was like $12, right? It was $6 a beer, which seemed kind of expensive. And I spent so many hours contacting customer support. I disputed the charge, all this for $12. And yet the next day I get this email from them and asking for feedback and that they were going to pay me $25 to fill out a survey. I was like, I don't have time to fill out a survey for $25. That the $25 is the pleasure. I was more willing to get out of that pain of losing $12 than to go to the pleasure of getting $25. That's just human nature. And when you understand that with your prospects, now you understand that you got to push them out of pain and pull them towards pleasure. We need both of those levers to help them make a change. Right? So that's the where, what the first what. The second question, why, is why are these goals important to you? This is probably the most important question to ask because it establishes their emotional reason. People buy on emotion and then they justify it with logic. So you must get to your prospect to an emotional state. And sometimes that's easier than other with some people than it is others. So you may need to drill down and keep asking them why. Why else? Why else is that important? Until you find that emotional trigger. I find that many salespeople get really uncomfortable asking these questions. However, in my opinion, it's your duty and obligation to help that prospect if you can, right? And sometimes we have to get uncomfortable to help that prospect overcome their own discomfort and actually get the help that they need. That second why are these goals important to you? Very, very important. The second what have you tried to achieve your goal in the past? Or what are you trying now? What have you tried in the past? We want to build up a pattern of failure. And by asking them these questions in this order, we're starting to build some tension within them. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of salespeople, especially in the health and wellness in the industry and coaches, especially, try to solve these problems at this time. This is not the time to solve any problems. The presentation is where we solve their problem. This is all about getting them to understand what their problem is. And for a lot of prospects, this is the first time that they've actually verbalized what their problem is, why it's important to them, and what they've tried in the past to achieve to try to fix that problem, but have failed. So we need to keep going with and without solving it at this point. And then the last question, the second why is now the right time to make a change? This creates urgency within the prospect. Imagine, asking this question, well, why now? And they're like, well, a doctor just told me I need to lower my blood pressure. I need to get on diabetes medication. I don't want to do that. It's really important for me to play with my kids and I'm out of breath. They're telling you everything that's going wrong in their life at this point, and why now is the right time to make a change. And remember, now I'm not asking them why now buy my program. I'm just saying, why now do you want to make this change? And by creating that urgency later, when you ask them for the sale and they say, well, let me think about it. Now you have all of this ammunition to go back to and say, well, but 2 minutes ago, you just told me that now is the right time because X, Y, and Z. And it helps them just kind of overcome that the mindset in their brain and actually want to buy your program. So Melissa is works with me every once in a while, but she did a sales audit call with me a couple months ago. I think it was in February, and we went through her current scripting. And I suggested that she implement the what, why framework because she hadn't really implemented it all the way in her framework. And once we implemented all of those questions, I think she was skipping like the last two, which are really important questions. You need to ask all four of those, right? And then, of course, during that call, we practiced a couple times and did some role play as well. Well, the next day, she emails me and said that right after her call with me, she had 2 sales calls and both purchased. And then later that same day, she had sold another one totaling more than $7,500 in sales in one day. More in one day than she typically has in a week. Needless to say, she was really happy with the results. And that was just after a free sales audit call, right? The scripting is so powerful when you go through this what, why piece. All right, so that's the scripting. So now let's talk about engage. So how do we engage with clients in a meaningful way and present our solution to them? I'm going to just drop this link in the chat box here. If you guys want to do a sales audit with me, I'm going to put that link there. But at the end of the webinar, we can also talk about it as well. But during the engage section, you ask those questions, and now you want to mirror back to them what you heard them say. Again, you're not solving any problems yet. The mirror back, basically, you just follow the what, why in reverse order, and you use your own words based on what they've told you. And this is a great way to help them feel heard and understood. And for many prospects, this is the first time that somebody's actually said, I hear you and I understand what your problem is. So basically, this is like the simple script. Let me repeat back what I heard you say was you want to get your diabetes and cholesterol under control because your lab tests are showing you're at risk for some more serious health concerns. And you want to be around to watch your kids have kids. Not only that, but you've tried multiple times to get this goal, but failed repeatedly. And now is the right time for you to make a change because you can't stand feeling the way that you feel right now. Did I get that right? And when you do that the right way with the right emotion, they will give you a resounding yes. And a lot of times they'll be like, you're a really good listener. And when they say that, they're saying you're really good at sales because you are actively listening. Sales is all about actively listening to what your prospects are saying so that you can help them at a really deep level. And now you can move on elegantly into the presentation to then solve their problems with your solution. This is the only time that you are solving their problems because now you're going to match your solution to their problems. And this is, again, where a lot of salespeople mess up. They just go through their normal presentation and maybe 50% of it applies to the prospect, but the other 50%, the prospect is going, yeah, I don't know. That doesn't sound right. Nah, I don't know if I need that piece because you're not matching up to what their exact problem is. But when you go through all of your benefits of your program and match it to exactly how it solves their problem, now they're going, yes, yeah, I need that. I need that. I need that. And boom, they're like, oh, it would be a no-brainer for me to not sign up. I need to sign up for this program because it's going to fix all of my problems. And basically you're crafting a solution that feels really personalized to them. And you'll take them from, thinking, well, maybe not, to a resounding yes. And now in my Selling with Heart in the Selling with Heart program, we go really deep into crafting a really customized presentation. And we do a lot of role play around this because, again, this is a skill set that can be learned and is very important to making that sale. Now, that QR code in the upper right-hand corner will take you right to the Script with Heart, the template. So make sure you're downloading that template as well. And when you actively listen and you present your solution that addresses all their problems, well, they don't have to think about it. They will just say, yes, that's right. It's a no-brainer decision for them to actually work with you. I'd mentioned Dr. Nick before, he was at 22% close rate. And when I first started working with him, I said, well, let's take a look at your sales presentation, because I always like to see what they're currently working with in terms of how they present their sales to them. And he said, what presentation? I just kind of have a conversation with them and tell them what I do and then let them make a decision. And I said, oh, yeah. Well, I bet they're telling you they need to think about it at the end. And he said, yeah, how'd you know? Well, the truth is he was overwhelming his prospects with way too much stuff, too much information. So they were confused. There was no connecting the dots between the problem and the solution. And after we put together his Script with Heart and really practice on all of these pieces, his close rate catapulted to 77%, from 22 to 77%, and now closing basically 4 out of 5 people instead of 1 out of 5. And imagine you're spending all this money on marketing to get all these leads in. And if you're only selling 1 out of 5, those marketing dollars are really expensive. But if you start selling 4 out of 5, now that marketing is really paying off. And yeah, I remember how happy he was when he called me up and told me that he had sold more people without additional advertising. He said, Tom, this is incredible. I can't believe how easy this is and how good it feels to have these conversations and help these people. It's comments like that really, really warm my heart. And that's why I love Selling with Heart. All right. So the ask. After you present your solution as a simple trial close question, and this is just very easy question to ask them. So you give your presentation and you say, is that the approach that you're looking for? And when all the other parts of the conversation are performed correctly, they will say, yes, that is. How do I get enrolled, right? You don't even have to ask them if they want to get enrolled. But of course, every once in a while, you may need to prompt them. So you're going to ask, is this the approach you're looking for? And they say, yes, that is. And then you want to give the price and reference them wanting to get out of that pain. So something like the program is just $2,000. And like you said, you want to stop the cycle you're on and finally get your health back on track, right? Now, at that point, they'll either say yes or no to you. And based on yes or no, now you can customize this language to overcome any objections. But most of the time, they're going to say yes, because who wouldn't want to get off that roller coaster ride that they're on and finally get the results, right? And then you can just go elegantly into enrolling them into your program in a very, very easy way. And I usually do something like, great, the next step is to get you signed up on my program. What email address do you want me to use to get you enrolled in the course? Great. And then how did you want to take care of the investment? Boom. And then they'll say, oh, I'll put it on my credit card, right? And there you got a sale. So Dr. Sarah was selling fee for service. I don't know if any of you are still selling fee for service, just basically session by session by session. That is a grind, because after every session, you have to sell the next session. So I worked with her and helped her develop some packages that were, 3, 6, and 12 months long. And it actually helped her patients better, because they were thinking long-term and the healing process over the long term. And a lot of people don't think about the long term, and they need to kind of have that vision of what it's going to look like as they progress. So we worked on that scripting, developed that so that she was comfortable asking those questions and then selling the packages. And within her first 5 weeks of working together, she had sold enough packages to pay for the investment of the Selling with Heart Intensive, which is amazing. And that's always my goal whenever I enroll somebody in my programs, is that they get their investment back as soon as possible, and definitely within the first 3 months. Now, she's gone on to sell more, including even a 12-month package. I mean, can you imagine how great she feels now that she knows for sure that client is going to be with her for 12 months, and she doesn't have to continuously selling to them and making sure that they come back in. It's set at the beginning. It's kind of like Ronco, set it and forget it, right? All right. That is the what, why process. You have that now. I encourage you to click on that link in there, because that's kind of my offer today, is to do these sales heart audits. And it's free. And basically what we're going to do, we're going to go, spend 30 minutes together. We're going to go through your current process. I'm going to give you some questions to ask to refine and reframe your presentation so that you can start to work on the what, why process and implement that into your sales presentations. Now, that is the free sales heart audit. So if you're interested in doing that, go ahead and click the link that's in the chat. If you have any questions also, by the way, you can put those into the chat as well. I'll be taking questions in just a second. Now, the other thing that you may want to consider, and this is a new thing, and this is my Selling with Heart Academy. And I'm kicking that off in July with a cohort. And it's what I call the Selling with Heart Academy. Basically, it's a year-long group coaching program, which includes weekly calls so that you stay accountable to going through the lessons, putting together your script, getting my advice on making some changes, doing role play. Plus, we have a community group as well, so you can interact with the others that are in the group. And because it's always fun to work with others and do role plays and really upskill ourselves. But you have access to the full online training for the full year, those weekly calls for the full year as well. And right now, I'm looking for 5 people to go through this and to get 50% off for the first 5 people to go through this. Now, normally the program is $39.97, so about $4,000. But for the first 5 that sign up for the program, it'll just be $19.97 for a full year of sales coaching. getting all your sales in order so that you have a perfect script, perfect presentation, and you are able to double your sales. I mean, if you're selling a $2,000 program, it only takes one sale, one additional sale that you normally would. And most of my clients double their closing rate. So kind of like Nick, he went from 22% to 77% close rate. Most of my clients are going to be doubling that 22% to 40% initially, which if you're seeing 4 people and only selling one of them, and then after we work together, now you're selling 2 for every 4. That's a huge increase and pay for the program over and over and over again. All right. So now that you have my what, why questions and the overview of the Heart framework, go ahead and schedule that Heart sales audit. When you click on that link, it's going to take you to my scheduling page. Let me see if I can show it to you here. Right here. This is the scheduling page. And then I'm going to have a quick little application process. Just answer the questions here, and then it'll take you to the calendar where then you'll pick a date and time that's convenient for you. And then we'll just jump on a call and go through your audit. And like I said, we'll go through that sales audit, how to implement what we've taught, what I've taught here today, making sure that you're using that what, why, and creating some specific questions for your business as well. All right. Are there any questions for anybody? If all this did was just add one more client to your business this week, would it be worth it? If you need help, please go ahead and sign up for that Heart sales audit. And if you have any other questions, boy, quiet group today. No questions.
Are we supposed to speak into the mic?
You can. Absolutely. Hey,
Yeah.
Martin.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to see how you operate. Thank you for having me on your show some time ago, not long ago. And yeah, impressive. You do well. I don't know that this is for me because I sell mostly through a website. So I would need to do a website audit rather than closing one-on-one, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
we do a lot of small transactions rather than the
the big ones. Yep.
full engage, right?
Yeah. Well, even for your the coaching that you do, right? You
Yeah.
do some, right?
Yeah, but it's I have to think now about turning that into a profit center rather than a selling tool.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we've
They
been
can-
just giving the answers away so that they go buy some supplements.
Yes. I think it works both ways too. You can, the people that are buying the supplements may need the advice and the health coaching, and
Yeah.
vice versa, right? You get
Yeah.
people on health coaching, so it's
Mhm.
actually very complimentary.
Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you. This was educational and helpful and
Awesome.
engaging.
Glad you joined. Yeah. Thanks, Martin.
Thank you.
Right. Joseph, thank you. Yeah, Deb. So if your boss wants to do the sales audit, absolutely. Just copy that link, or just schedule a time for him to do it as well. Yeah, absolutely. He can do the sales audit for sure. All right. Any other questions, folks? I know I finished right on time. I always like to do these in about 45 minutes so as not to have too much fluff and let you guys get on with your day as well. So, very cool. Well, if that is it, no more questions, or just book that sales audit and I'll be able to answer any questions for you as well during that. And especially if you have some more personal questions that you'd like to ask, we can do that then. All right. Well, until then, you guys have a fantastic day, and we're going to have a little music as we go out today. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.